Alrighty. I'll tell you a little bit more about me. So first I'll start with my career vision because this is what drives my career decisions. So currently my career vision is being a force for good at the intersection of emerging technology, ethics, and social connection. So I get to work right at that intersection in my current role, which is really exciting. A bit about my career path. So essentially over the past decade, if we're counting, the education that led up to my career. So 2010, I started my Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology at the College of William and Mary, and I was a philosophy minor. Then after I graduated from undergrad, I worked in marketing for a bit with startups, and I was a digital nomad, meaning I mostly worked remotely and traveled the world while working for different companies. Then I decided I wanted to make a career change into tech, and so specifically data. So I went back to William and Mary, which I love, to get a master's of science in business analytics. So I did that. I was totally hooked on data science from there, wanted to go deeper. And so I did a machine learning fellowship after that in London. And I wanted to go even deeper after that into the coding aspect. So I came back to the US to New York and did a software engineering bootcamp, which was an awesome experience. I went to Full Stack Academy, which I highly recommend to anyone who is also thinking about a career change or a career in tech. And then after sort of those educational pieces, I was able to land my current job as a data scientist at Facebook AR VR. And let me share my 4 current focus areas on the Oculus XR tech team. So starting from the top left and going clockwise. So first focus area, at least for this sort of past 6 months or so, was we were launching hand tracking on Quest. So that's basically for some things using our headset now, you don't need to use your controllers. You can just use your hands. And that was a really advanced technical feat to be able to launch that. And I was working, helping the machine learning engineers and research scientists to track the metrics of their hand tracking model so they could constantly be improving it to the point where it was ready to launch. Then top right, one of my other focus areas has been working on the idea of social presence. So one of the goals of VR at Oculus is that eventually you could be with someone in VR and you could feel like you're there together in person. And so we're doing research to figure out how can we make that happen? What are the elements that are most important in VR for people to feel like they're actually face to face? So I was helping with that with some user research studies where we are researching different ways to make that possible. And I was doing the data analysis for that. Then bottom right, one of my huge focus areas has been inclusive AI, which is ensuring that the human-centered machine learning models that we create work equally well, or as equally well as possible for people with different physical characteristics, which could range from gender presentation to skin tone to facial hair or no, or wearing glasses or no. Basically, we're trying to make sure that we don't have algorithmic bias negatively impacting the experience of people using our headsets or any products. Then bottom left, that is a screenshot from an announcement that was made earlier this year that Oculus is going to be launching a social VR experience called Horizon, where people are going to be able to interact with each other and build their own worlds in VR. And I was doing some work on analysis of user safety in social VR. So, how do we track to make sure that people are treating each other well in VR? And if they're not, how do we make sure that people have the proper tools to make it right if they want to, block or report someone. So I'll tell you a little bit about more specifically what data science and also I'll throw in data engineering looks like in some of those areas or at Facebook in general. And so some of you may not have heard of data engineering. It's similar to data science, but a data engineer will be the person who is often preparing the data, handling big data, handling messy, unstructured data, and building the infrastructure and pipelines to get that data into a state where it's usable to get insights from it. So often the data engineer is the first part of the pipeline, and then they hand the data off to data scientists who then are able to take nice clean data and analyze it and provide insights. On my team, we don't have any data engineers. So the data scientists and I on my team, we sort of do both data science and data engineering, which is, a good experience, and getting to learn that has been fun. So 3 types of projects I work on. I touched a little bit on some example projects earlier, but sort of to group them into categories based on type of project, I would say the 3 types are: first, product analytics and strategy. So that is taking data that exists already that likely came from people using our products, and analyzing it to help guide product strategy. So, like how many people are using this feature versus this feature? Or are people, are there a lot of crashes happening with this feature, and how can we improve that? So that's sort of the product analytics and strategy piece. Then user research. There are whole dedicated user research teams at Facebook and many tech companies. So I'm not necessarily leading the user research, but sometimes user research wants a data scientist to get involved to do a deeper, more focused analysis. And so user research will be, maybe testing out new products or comparing 2 potential versions of a product to each other. And then I'll help analyze the data to see the differences between people's experiences between, several different either products or versions of a product. And then third, again, data engineering. So for the hand tracking launch for Oculus Quest, I did a lot of the data engineering. So, when people are using hands, we want to know like how many people are using hands, how often are they using it. Eventually, we want to know once there are more apps where you can use hands, we'll want to know what apps are people using hands in so that we can, guide developers to tell them the best type of apps to use for hand tracking. And so I was building a lot of the data pipelines for that, and also helping to ensure that we respect user privacy when collecting that data. So only collecting data that is not personal or sensitive, and making sure that we are constantly talking to our legal team, our privacy team, to make sure that we're, disclosing to users what kind of data we're collecting, and then respecting that commitment. So for each of these, I will also share sort of a sample question for each of these types of projects. So for product analytics and strategy, a sample question might be, what's the best way to measure positive or negative experiences with this feature? So that might be a type of question that a data scientist might look at. And the impact that this would have on the company would be you get to influence data-driven decisions that create better experiences for users. A sample question in user research might be, like I mentioned, in social VR, what elements contribute to a sense of being present with another person? And the impact of that is you're guiding the innovation and also inclusive product design with diverse users in mind. So user research often happens early on in the product development process, as well as later. But from the early stages, you can really guide the direction that a product goes. Then for data engineering, a sample question might be, how can we best monitor the performance of our spatial computing models while protecting user privacy, like I mentioned. And so the impact here is you can help teams unleash the power of data in a way that's responsible and also scalable. So I want to share a little bit about why I love working at Facebook. So 3 things. One of them is I really appreciate being valued for my unique combinations of skills, strengths, and passions. Facebook is a strengths-based company, and so your manager and their manager and your whole team want you to be working on things that you consider your strengths, which could either be things you're already really good at or things that you are actively working on getting really good at and are excited about is a really key part of the Facebook definition of strengths. When you're working on things you're excited about, you're going to do way better work, and it's going to be a better outcome for everyone involved. Second, I really appreciate the limitless potential for impacting the world. So, at Facebook, a lot of our products are used by literally billions of people. So if you can make an impact on making those products a better experience, a more positive experience, you can impact so many people in the world. At AR/VR, our AR/VR Oculus products are not used by as large a number of people yet, but we really believe that AR VR is going to be the future of computing. And so we can impact the world if we're innovating now. With AR VR, we can impact the world a ton in the future. And then third, I really appreciate the flexibility and autonomy that I get at Facebook. So we have this saying, nothing at Facebook is someone else's problem. And which basically means you're not strictly stuck into, you can only work on this type of project, you can only work on this type of subject area. If you see a project that you really want to do, you can take initiative and go out and do it, which has been really great. Also, another great thing is that they're very flexible about you switching teams after a certain amount of time at Facebook. So if you decide that actually there's another part of the company that you'd be more excited about working with, if you find a manager in that part of the company and you both agree that you would be a good asset to their team and they have headcount available to add someone to their team, you can do that. And you don't have to re-interview for anything like that, as long as you're staying in the same job type. Like I would still be a data scientist, but just in another part of the company if I did this.